Go to overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk/online therapy to get 20% off your first month of cognitive behavioural therapy, with weekly sessions online with a therapist, in addition to worksheets, a journal, meditation and yoga videos, and unlimited messaging. There's strong evidence that CBT can help people who hoard, and accessing therapy online can be affordable and accessible. Find out more and get your discount at overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk/online therapy.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking for professionals on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. That's like looking for your car keys in a fish tank. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So start looking in the right place. With LinkedIn, you can hire professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
Think of all the sleep hacks you've ever heard. You could spend years trying them all, or you could instantly transform your sleep with Boll & Branch. They make the softest, most breathable bedding you'll ever feel. And it's all 20% off. That's their best sale of the entire season. Millions of sleepers love their buttery soft sheets, airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and so much more. And you can try all of them for 20% off with promo code BUTTERY20. So hurry to bollandbranch.com today. That's BOLL and branch.com. See site for details.
Welcome to the Overcome Compulsive Hoarding with That Hoarder podcast. I am drowning in stuff and trying to find a way out. Listen as I explore the issues and delve deep as somebody profoundly affected by hoarding disorder. Find out more, including links to subscribe to the podcast and all my social media at overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk. Finally, I am not a doctor. I'm just a hoarder doing her best. So do seek professional support if and when you need it. So today I'm going to start with my occasional series where I share my success of the week and my weird dilemma of the week. The success of the week is a little yay for me, and the dilemma of the week just highlights that thought processes in people who hoard are weird. So the success of the week was a small thing physically, but it had taken me a while to get there. A few months ago, I got a McDonald's Happy Meal. I hadn't had a Happy Meal probably since I was a child, but I was like a little bit hungry and not a lot hungry and driving past a McDonald's. So I got a Happy Meal, and with a Happy Meal comes a little toy, because Happy Meals are the children's meals that McDonald's do. And this little toy was like a Sonic the Hedgehog maze type thing. I don't really know. And obviously I have no use for a Sonic the Hedgehog maze toy. I also don't have children, so what to do with the Sonic the Hedgehog maze toy? So I thought of one particular friend's kid, and that kid is very into video games. So I thought, right, I'll just keep it in the car, and then next time I see them, I will pass the toy on to the kid. But then I thought, well, he is into video games, but he's very specific about what video games he's into, and Sonic the Hedgehog does not make the cut in his little judgmental 7-year-old world. So he wouldn't actually want a Sonic the Hedgehog thing. But instead of going, so I may as well throw it away, I thought, I did that thing that a lot of hoarders do where we kind of delay the decision. So I thought, well, I'll just keep it in the car. It's not taking up much space, and I'll work out who to give it to. You know, another kid I know, I might suddenly think, oh, I bet they're into that. So I instead of making a decision, I didn't make a decision and I left it in the car. So when I periodically do a bit of tidying up in the car, I would come across it and think, oh, I don't know what to do with that. And it was like, I couldn't put it in a charity shop bag. I think giving a Happy Meal toy to a charity shop is pushing their goodwill a bit too far. They would not want it. I am 98% sure of that. The kid I initially thought of wouldn't want it. My other friends' kids aren't really video games people. And so my success of the week is that after that thing had been sitting on the passenger seat floor of my car for I don't know how many months, I thought, this is ridiculous, and I put it in the bin. So I finally made a decision, success number 1. That decision was to get rid of it, success number 2. And added bonus is that I didn't have any of the kind of guilt or regret that we can get after throwing something away. So, yay, that was my success of the week. My weird dilemma of the week. I was doing some tidying up in my bathroom. My bathroom's quite small and there wasn't much space. And so at some point I had a rubbish bag on the go. I put it in the bath so that I could get to the floor underneath where it had been. And I did a bit of work and got on with my day. And then the next time I was doing some tidying up in the bathroom a little bit later on, I forgot that I'd put the rubbish bag in the bath. I looked around, couldn't see a rubbish bag on the go, so started a new rubbish bag. Anyway, at some point later, I realised I had 2 rubbish bags on the go. I had the new one on the go and I had the one that I just remembered was in the bath. Both of them were half full. Now, if my bathroom was really spacious, then having 2 rubbish bags on the go wouldn't particularly be an issue. But my bathroom is not spacious. It is small. And so there's not a lot of room in there to keep 2 rubbish bags going. And I suspect what a non-hoarding person would do is tie up one of the half-full rubbish bags and throw it away half-full. Or indeed put the half-full rubbish bag inside the other half-full rubbish bag, making a full rubbish bag and throw that away. But the weird dilemma kicked in, and the result was that I couldn't do either of those things because I would be wasting half a rubbish bag.
Why?
I was thinking of the several inches of plastic that could have stuff in and wouldn't, and that would be a waste of those several inches of plastic. And I didn't know what to do because I was thinking it would be really wasteful to throw it away half full. There isn't space in here to have 2. In any other room, I would think, well, I'm going to use them both eventually, so I'll just fill one then the other. That wasn't possible in the bathroom. And I was kind of overwhelmed by the prospect of wasting a few inches of plastic. And now I'm talking about it, I'm realising there is another potential solution that I hadn't thought of at the time, which is take one of the half-filled rubbish bags and use it in a different room. I didn't think of that. Another option that I was aware of was to just fill them both there and then, so they would both be filled and unused. But by that stage, I was completely burnt out on the bathroom, couldn't stand the sight of it, didn't want to do any more tidying up in there for a while. So what I did, eventually, I got to the point where I just threw one of them out half full. But I can't say I don't still feel a bit guilty about that. So there is my weird dilemma this week. So this week I'm going to talk about something that comes up a lot in terms of what people think about hoarders and indeed what we might think about ourselves. We've all heard, I'm sure, somebody say that hoarders are really lazy, whether they've said that about us or not knowing that we hoard and they've said it about the terrible shows on TV or something like that. It's a common thought. I mean, you might look at a hoarded house and think, why has nobody tidied that up? That is a really lazy person who lives there, clearly. And if you're anything like me, you've probably thrown that accusation at yourself more than once. You look at your surroundings, and especially if you're in a state where you're kind of frozen and feel absolutely that you have no power to act on any of it, you might look around yourself and think, why am I so lazy? If I wasn't lazy, I would get off my bum and sort this out. It's something that it's very common to hear about hoarding, and I am here to say that it's a really unfair accusation, but it's also a really inaccurate accusation. Hoarders are not hoarders because we are lazy. That's not why we are in this situation. It's a very common trope. The results might look the same. An accumulation of too much stuff, probably tied with a lack of cleanliness, lack of tidiness, could be a result of both laziness or hoarding. But the two are very different things. Just because they have the same outcome doesn't mean they are the same. So the first thing I think of when somebody says that hoarders are lazy is that it takes more effort to live in a hoarded home than a non-hoarded home, right? Currently, for the last few weeks, I've been in a situation where if I want to get into my front room, I have to lift quite a heavy box out of the doorway to the front room and put it on the stairs. And then when I'm done in the front room, I have to lift the heavy box off the stairs and put it back in the doorway to the front room. Now, I'm working on this. The reason I am still doing that is because I haven't worked out how to get around the particular logistical problem I'm faced with in that particular space at the moment. So that's what I've been doing, and that's why I've been doing it. It's far from ideal, but I'm on it. For what that's worth, I'm on it. But the fact is, shifting a heavy box every time you want to go in or out of a room is not the act of a lazy person. A lazy person would find a solution really, really quickly to avoid having to shift a heavy box every time they want to go into their front room. That is not the action of a lazy person. Living in a hoarded home can involve kind of almost ballet or gymnastics to get from one end of a room to another. It can involve, it's like an obstacle course. If a lazy person had the option to walk from one end of the room to the other in a straight line, or to walk from one end of the room to the other that involves stepping over a tall pile, walking around a TV, and not knocking anything over, they'd choose the former. And they would put their life together so that the former was possible. They would choose walking straight across a room. All the additional mental energy it takes when you hoard is another issue that lazy people wouldn't have to deal with. So the way hoarding manifests means that a lot of day-to-day activities that people who don't hoard take for granted are actually more complex, more complicated, more physically demanding than they would be if we weren't hoarders. And so laziness doesn't come into it. Also, if the core problem was that we were lazy, then all of the agonizing we do wouldn't happen. If we were lazy, would we agonize over what to do with a paper folder with a big tear down the middle? No. Would somebody worry for weeks and weeks and weeks after throwing out a can of tuna that's 4 years out of date? Would a lazy person keep hold of a gas bill from 2002 if somebody stood in front of them and said, I can throw this away for you now? Lazy people don't lie awake at night thinking about whether they're a terrible person because they threw away a scribbled shopping list from 2014. The thinking, the dysfunctional thinking that is so inherent with hoarding is a clear demonstration that there is a lot going on for us that is nothing to do with laziness. Lazy people don't worry about that stuff. If that's why their house is a mess, they, that thinking doesn't come into it. Those dilemmas that most people don't feel, most people don't face, most people don't agonize over, lazy people don't agonize over them either, and yet we do, because we have hoarding disorder, and inherent to hoarding disorder is that kind of thinking. Another reason that lazy people and hoarders are different is if somebody went into a lazy person's house and said, "Stay where you are, you don't need to move, I will clear and clean and tidy and empty the house for you." The lazy person would say, "Yes, please, that would be great. Please tidy up for me. Please throw away my rubbish." Somebody who hoards would not have that reaction. If somebody came in and said, "I can get rid of your rubbish," our blood pressure would raise 20 points and we'd have a nervous breakdown. Lazy people would welcome somebody fixing their mess. Hoarders would panic at the prospect of somebody fixing their mess. Now, I can see one way in which hoarding can look like laziness, and that is when we are in a situation that clearly needs to change, but we don't take any action. It can look from the outside like we're happily living in our hoards. And, there are people who happily live in their hoards, but many of us unhappily live in our hoards. But people from the outside might look and think, well, if you're not happy with it, why haven't you changed it? Why is it still like that if you don't like it? But that is ignoring, that's very surface level, and it's ignoring what's going on. It's ignoring why we might sit in it and do nothing for a while. But the reasons we might sit in a hoard and do nothing about it, even if we want it to change, are nothing to do with laziness. They are about overwhelm. They are about indecision. They are about simply not knowing how. Just not having the knowledge and skills about how to sort through things, what to keep, what we need, what we don't need, what's reasonable, what's proportionate. So I can see with that factor that it can look like laziness, that today I have sat and worked in my hoard and I haven't thrown a single thing away, even when I was having a break from work. And a non-hoarder would think, well, if I was sitting in a hoard I didn't want to be sitting in, then every break I would be sorting it out. But no, it's because I have to pace myself. It's because it's such an overwhelming task. My brain shuts down. It's that I don't always know what to do with things. It's many, many factors. It's not, I just can't be bothered. I mean, sometimes it is, I just can't be bothered. But in the context of all of that, I can't be bothered because it takes so much more mental energy for somebody who hoards to sort out their hoard than somebody who doesn't hoard. I mean, I can't be bothered does sound like the refrain of a lazy person. But as I just said, it's not always that simple. I can't be bothered is kind of cloaked in is cloaking many other things. But also, if it feels like it is just I can't be bothered, even that needs a bit of probing, a bit of exploring, because if you're feeling a lot of I can't be bothered, that could well be something like depression. I feel like my experiences of quite profound depression in the past have been characterized by I can't be bothered about everything. Can't be bothered to eat, can't be bothered to sleep, can't be bothered to go out, can't be bothered to take my meds, can't be bothered to do anything. Now that was not laziness, that was absolutely symptomatic of my depression. Similarly, if somebody is physically ill, physically disabled, then doing what might to most people just be a really small task, taking a bag of rubbish out to the rubbish bin, can take a lot more physical energy. So I can't be bothered can be the energy that will take is so disproportionate, and I need to maintain my energy if I'm going to be able to get into the shower or if I'm going to be able to cook some tea. But also, and most controversially, perhaps, I want to defend laziness. Not 100% of the time, not when it impacts other people, not when it has negative effects on your life and all of that. However, I do think that the societal push to be productive every second of every day is really toxic, is really damaging, and is a fast track to burning out. I think we get it at work. We are expected to do more and more and more with less and less and less, whether that's less time, fewer resources, fewer colleagues. And I'm really interested in productivity. I listen to various productivity podcasts. I follow accounts on Twitter. I read stuff about it because I am always keen to improve my productivity in terms of improving my motivation, improving what I can get done, how long it takes me, that kind of thing. But what I see in some of those settings is a drive to be productive non-stop from morning to night. There's no excuse to put the TV on for half an hour when you could be setting up your side hustle. There's no excuse for scrolling TikTok for 20 minutes when you could be working out. And it's all about proportionality, isn't it? I feel like for me, putting TV on for half an hour at the end of the day signals to my brain that work is over and I can switch off. It's a really important part of my day for my brain to switch off. If I was doing nothing but putting TV on and staring at it all day, every day, then sure, there's an issue with productivity. But the idea that we have to be hustling the whole time is, I think, potentially quite dangerous, and it becomes obsessive and it leads to collapse, which is that whole all or nothing thing that I and a lot of you are trying to learn how to avoid. I'm trying to learn how to do things gradually and how to do things in a spread out way rather than do it all at once and then collapse into a heap and do nothing. And so the word I keep using, proportional. Be proportional about it. Don't feel like every second of every day has to be accounted for on an ongoing long-term basis. There are short-term reasons to do it sometimes. You're having a landlord inspection. Social services are coming to check on your children. Anything like that, then sure, you may want to account for every second of every day for a while. But you can't expect yourself to do that in the long term without burning out completely. And that's where allowing yourself some laziness is not sinful. It is not a sign that you're a terrible person. It does not mean you're not committed to making progress, whether that's with hoarding or whether that's at work or whether that's in your relationship or whatever it is that you're feeling pressure to be doing the whole time. Switching off is just as important as switching on. And for the sake of our progress, it's better to make some progress on an ongoing basis than a lot of progress than no progress. But also just for the sake of our sanity, it's important to have those times where we're absolutely not productive. And if we want to call that laziness, then as long as we're not using it as a stick to beat ourselves with, then I'm fine with that. I've been thinking about how many of us have to keep our hoarding secret. I will get to the top tip of the week in a sec, but just for a moment, let's talk secrets. I certainly keep my hoarding secret, and I've been wondering about the effect that these secrets and the shame have on us and our mental health. I'm thinking of doing an episode about the secrets we keep about our hoarding. And if you feel comfortable, I want to hear your hoarding secrets. I've created a form where you can submit your secrets anonymously. I will not know who sends what. If you want to tell me your secret for a potential future episode, go to overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk/secret. That's overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk/secret. Now back to your top tip.
Want flexibility? Take yoga. Want flexibility with your health insurance? Check out United Healthcare Insurance Plans. Underwritten by Golden Rule Insurance Company, they offer flexible, budget-friendly medical, dental, and vision coverage that may be right for you. More at uh1.com.
Think of all the sleep hacks you've ever heard. You could spend years trying them all, or you could instantly transform your sleep with Boll & Branch. They make the softest, most breathable bedding you'll ever feel. And it's all 20% off. That's their best sale of the entire season. Millions of sleepers love their buttery soft sheets, airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and so much more. And you can try all of them for 20% off with promo code BUTTERY20. So hurry to bollandbranch.com today. That's BOLL and branch.com. See site for details.
So my top tip this week is a mini clip from a podcast called Mind Your Home. And it is the guest on the podcast who is a woman called Stephanie Safarian. And she's talking about why buying eco-friendly stuff is not actually the most sustainable answer. Have a listen.
I believe that the best way to be not just a minimalist, but also to be sustainable is to just not buy. So not buying and acquiring what you need from alternate means like borrowing, repairing, reusing, thrifting. Those actions would get me an A. Does that answer your question?
No, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you're saying that not buying it, buying eco-friendly, sure, it's better than just buying the things that are wrapped in plastic and full of waste, but not buying at all is even better because then there truly is zero waste. And at the same time, you're not cluttering your home with different things that you possibly don't even need.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And it's true. There's a lot to be said for that. And if you're struggling with acquiring and feeling like it's your personal responsibility to buy all the green, eco, recyclable stuff, keep that in mind because, first of all, it's not your responsibility. And secondly, if you do, that's not solving the climate problem and it's not solving the plastics problem. It's just that people are selling more stuff to you. Okay. Thank you for listening and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you for listening to the Overcome Compulsive Hoarding podcast. You can find more online at overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk. You can find me on Twitter at @thathoarder and on Facebook at Overcome Compulsive Hoarding with That Hoarder. To find out more about how you can support this podcast and the overall project, go to overcomecompulsivehoarding.co.uk/support and do subscribe to this podcast so you make sure you don't miss any future episodes.